His name is Lutian, a recent college grad. He was heading home after a long, tough day at work. Just then, a luxury car slammed right into him. His face was a mask of pure terror and shock. In that split second, he saw the driver of the luxury car. The woman was stunningly beautiful, smoking a cigarette. The headlights were blindingly bright, and the young man's body was sent flying from the impact. As his body sailed through the air, he had a strange thought: checking out at the hands of a beautiful woman didn't seem so bad after all. The system congratulated him on being the savior of the apocalypse. He was about to be thrown into a post-apocalyptic world facing a bio-crisis. Lutian panicked, screaming that he didn't want to go. He hadn't even had his first kiss yet. His negative thoughts created an anomaly in the system. The transmigration process was on the verge of failing. The transmigration completed. Weirdly, he woke up confused, his face completely bandaged and bruised. He shot up in bed, yelling that he didn't want to transmigrate, only for a system warning to pop up about attracting zombies. The young man stopped shouting and looked around, bewildered. He realized he wasn't in some strange world, but in a hotel room. Then he noticed his clothes and the bandage on his head. He was wearing a hospital gown and hooked up to an IV drip. The system alerted him about the IV he was receiving. It was a toxic liquid that was increasing his health points. He glanced at the floor and saw a yoga mat and some underwear. The system identified the item as shapewear armor. Lutian was floored by the discovery of the shapewear armor. He couldn't believe what the system was telling him. Suddenly, Lutian felt a sharp pain in his arm and, without thinking, ripped the IV out. A mission popped up to stay with an S-rank zombie for 73 hours and double the rewards. He heard a noise at the door and panicked, realizing the apocalypse system was real. The screen warned that an S-rank zombie was approaching, and he had to either run or fight. The guy tensed up. The mission difficulty was sky high right from the get-go. Just then, the door opened, and a gorgeous woman wrapped in a towel stepped out of the bathroom. The young man stared at her, thinking she was definitely S-rank, but something didn't feel right. He was mesmerized by the woman's stats, noticing how fair her skin was. She pinched his cheek and said it was good he finally woke up after being out cold for 3 days. The woman introduced herself as his savior, but he was completely lost. The system urged him to attack the zombie, pointing out the distance was perfect for a fatal blow. But the guy ignored the warning and asked if they were in the year 2024. She found it strange but confirmed the date. Then he asked if she was the one who saved him. The woman said yes and that he had to obey her now, but the system insisted on the attack. A doctor appeared, saying that thankfully, he hadn't suffered any brain damage in the accident. The S-rank woman thanked the doctor, who had an A rank above his head, and they chatted about a banquet. The guy was in shock. Everyone had stat boxes, and the system was calling them all zombies. He realized the crank seemed to be tied to each person's social status in this society. A nurse approached to tend to his arm, and he asked where they were. She explained it was a private hospital owned by a very rich man, and it all started to click. The woman put a bandage on the injection site, and he felt a small sting in his arm. The system beeped, saying he was under attack by a zombie, but the young man thought that was ridiculous. The nurse revealed that CEO Wong had saved him and paid for all his medical expenses. He stared at the rich woman, doubting her story. It just didn't add up. Then a memory flooded back, and he remembered she was the one who hit him with her car. Suddenly, the CEO shot him a serious look, and the guy tensed up, afraid of being found out. He noticed a yoga mat and concluded she had been in his room for the past 3 days. He pictured her stretching, and the system warned that the S-rank zombie was in an high-tack stance. He saw her changing clothes, and the system announced that the B-rank zombie was now S-rank and removing her armor. The warning insisted this was his chance to defeat her, and he wondered if there'd be a reward. Motivated by the reward, the guy teared up but said he wanted to fight a zombie. The system encouraged him to adopt the apocalyptic mindset, but the CEO intimidated him with a single touch, and he dropped the idea of attacking. He said it was a misunderstanding and that he got it now. The woman forced him to repeat the cover story. He was hit in a hit and run, and the kind CEO saved him. She praised him for being a quick learner and patted his arm. Then she said he could go home, and he was floored. The CEO explained she had urgent business to attend to. She told him to be a good boy and stay in the hospital for a few more days. She whispered a dangerous warning in his ear. If a strange woman came looking for her, he was not to say a single wrong word. The woman finished her threat with a dark smile, saying otherwise, it would be a major headache for her. The guy realized it was a direct threat and became even more certain of everything. Scared but determined, he mustered the courage to ask a question. He asked if she was the daughter of the famous businessman Wang Han. After all, her last name was Wang, and the hospital belonged to the dynasty group. The woman confirmed she was Wang Yerong, a manager at the group. The young man was shocked and immediately thought about asking for a luxury car as compensation. He questioned why she'd reveal her identity without fear of blackmail. She laughed and said he didn't look the type. Suddenly, someone called from outside the door. The system warned about 2 approaching A-rank zombies, and the guy tensed up. The door opened to reveal 2 men in suits with A ranks. The CEO said they were bodyguards to watch over him, and the guy understood the situation perfectly. The woman gave him one last look and ordered him to stay put and not go anywhere. He fearfully agreed, having no other choice. Then the CEO finally left the hospital that night. Our hero was left alone in his room, reflecting on his luxurious prison. Alone in the room, he picked up his phone to text his boss, but his team leader fired him without a second thought. The guy had lost his job and was now trapped in the hospital. He doubted if the CEO would ever really compensate him for all this. Lying in bed, he had an idea and remembered the system. The interface popped up, ready to display his status panel. The young Lu Tian stared at his status window and was shocked. He was only level 1, and all his stats were pitifully low. He then saw the stats of the CEO and her bodyguards. They were all S rank or A rank, and way stronger than him, except for his luck. Lu Tian was furious with his mediocre stats. Going into an apocalypse this week would be a death sentence. He then decided to check the system shop to see what he could buy. The screen showed several locked items and a few available slots. The guy noticed he had 1,480 points. He figured this was the system's currency for buying items. The system reminded him of the mission to stay with an S-rank zombie. His reward had been doubled, which was why he had so many points. With a greedy smile, his hopes soared. An apocalypse system had to have tons of incredible and powerful items. But the shop disappointed him with outrageously expensive items. An SS rank skill book cost 20,000 coins, way out of his price range. Frustrated, he bit his pillow for having risked so much. The system then announced that the supplies had been updated. A timer on the screen showed the shop's refresh time. The clock hit 0, and a new day began for our hero. With his arms crossed, he looked at the rest-stocked shop. The guy was curious to see what else the system had to offer. The shop now had a revolver for 800 and a gold bar. He was shocked to see he could buy a firearm. He was stunned by the price of the gold bar. 100 grams cost only 100 coins, cheaper than a sweet roll. That's when the guy understood the logic of the apocalypse system. Food and water were more valuable than gold at the end of the world. He then bought 3 bars, spending 300 points. The system insulted him for not picking weapons or food first. Lu Tian grabbed his phone to look up the price of gold. 1 gram was going for about 620 on the market. He started doing the math in his head. Each gold bar was 100 grams, and he'd bought a total of 3. The young man realized he now had 180,000. The gold bars in his hand had made him rich overnight. A celebratory shout echoed down the hospital hallway. One of the CEO's bodyguards heard the noise coming from the room. The guards and the nurse stood outside. The boss's order was just to keep a close eye on the guy. If the gold bars were real, it meant one thing: all the other items in the system shop had to be real too. He decided to test the stat points on his physique. The system gave charisma bonuses for every 5 points of stamina. The upgrade cost 600 points, and the system praised him. According to the AI, he was now slightly smarter than a pig. The nurse entered the room with new clothes for him. The woman said it was time for him to change. She looked at the empty bed and was suddenly confused. The healthcare professional had no idea where the patient went. A nervous voice came from the bathroom, telling her to wait. The young man yelled that he was coming out and asked for a moment. The nurse grew worried about his injuries. She said he shouldn't get his wounds wet. Lu Tian walked out of the bathroom with a towel in his hand. The nurse saw him shirtless and was surprised by his physique. The system warned that a B-rank zombie had breached the door. He needed to eliminate the threat, and his new stats were displayed. Meanwhile, a wealthy woman arrived at the hospital. She stepped out of a luxury car and was greeted by several doctors. The hospital director greeted her nervously. He said it was an honor to welcome the elder miss for an inspection. The woman revealed she knew about her sister's business. She wasn't there for a simple visit and seemed to be looking for trouble. She is Wang Yafu, the executive CEO and the boss's sister. The woman ordered them to take her to the man her sister sent here. Faraway CEO Wang received an urgent call. Her secretary warned her that her sister was heading to Liu Tian's room. The boss floored the gas and yelled for them to buy time. She wondered how her sister had so many spies everywhere. The young woman was determined. She couldn't let her rival win. She had to stop her sister from finding any dirt on her. At the hospital, the tension mounted with every second. The older sister was about to reach the guy's room. Liu Tian slipped and fell on top of the nurse. He apologized, saying he forgot to lock the bathroom door. The system identified the nurse as a B-rank zombie. The AI began scanning the healthcare professional's entire body. The system congratulated him on his bold move. The AI then ordered him to attack the supposed monster to defend himself. The nurse's hat fell to the floor from the impact. The protagonist earned 2 system points for dealing damage. The guy was completely embarrassed on the floor with the woman. He said he accidentally stepped on something, which is why they fell. The nurse said there was no need to be ashamed. After all, she was the one who changed his clothes while he was unconscious. The guy realized the system was wrong. The woman wasn't a zombie, but a special caretaker. She then asked him to get off of her, but the system congratulated him and gave him another 20 points. He leaped back in a panic, yelling it was an accident and apologizing profusely. The nurse teased him, saying he wasn't being honest, then threatened his little friend down there. Liu Tian panicked at the threat, and the system unlocked a new feature called Conquest Mode. Suddenly, the door to the room swung open, and the AI alerted him to 2 new zombies, rank A and SS. The 2 sisters arrived and saw the scene. The older one remarked that they'd arrived at a bad time. The system warned of aggressive intent, and the guy wondered what the SS rank woman wanted. He stood up awkwardly and faced the visitors, asking who they were. The woman introduced herself as Wang Yafu from the Dynasty group and extended her hand to the guy. He shook her hand awkwardly and said hello, but noticed she was observing him intensely. Meanwhile, the nurse looked at a card with the name Laruochan and wondered if this was an opportunity. The CEO noticed he was looking at the nurse and revealed that her younger sister was the one who hit him. Wang Yafu made a dangerous proposal, asking if he wanted to seek justice for himself. The guy said the CEO had it all wrong, that the nurse was the one who saved him. The system warned him of an attack and said his armor was breaking. The CEO's sister said the caretaker lied about the accident. They found the car's repair records, so she was no savior. The woman grabbed his hand, but he tried to resist. He thought about the promise he made to the nurse, and his health points started to drop. His hand ached from the woman's grip. The AI warned him that if his health reached 0, it would be game over for good. The powerful woman looked at him with contempt. She asked what the nurse gave him to keep him quiet and defend her. She threatened him, saying he'd better tell her everything. If he became her enemy, things would get very ugly for him. Wang Yafu switched tactics and moved closer to him. She said if he helped her, they'd be friends, and she treats her friends well. Her sister took out her phone, ready to transfer money. The woman in glasses asked for his bank account or any payment method. Liu Tian got angry at the woman's offer. He asked if she thought she could buy everything and everyone with her money. The guy cried out in pain and anger, tears in his eyes. He said that even a cornered rat will bite and told her to let him go. The CEO just smirked at his reaction. She scoffed, saying he couldn't even break free, yet he wanted to bite someone. She challenged him to try and escape if he could. The woman called him a weakling, which only made him angrier. The system gave the guy a new mission. The AI said the SS rank zombie looked down on him, so he needed to prove himself and intimidate her. He screamed that he wasn't weak, and a golden guitar materialized. The system congratulated him for scaring them both and gave him more points. The nurse ran down the hall, but arrived too late. She saw 2 goons on the floor with their pants down and the guy standing over them. The nurse thought worriedly that she couldn't let Wang Yafu find out anything about her. She entered the room and asked where the woman was, then wanted to know if he'd told her anything. The guy yelled that he did everything he could to cover up her crime, leaving the woman confused. In the car, the CEO and her sister drove off while the powerful woman cursed him in her thoughts. The sister asked if they should keep an eye on Liu Tian, but the boss was furious. She ordered them to watch the guy and the nurse, promising to humiliate them at their father's banquet. The caretaker burst out laughing at the situation, and the guy told her to have some decency. She said he had no idea he'd just scared off a monster. Her sister had been a beast since childhood. 2 years ago, her father gave her control of the company, and she massively increased its profits. On top of that, the woman was a boxing champion who could have gone to the Olympics. The guy understood why her resistance was so high and thought about putting his points into that stat. The woman noticed his face had healed overnight and pinched his cheeks curiously. She mentioned his skin had improved too and asked what kind of medicine he used. The nurse got serious and said his whole aura had changed, then questioned his identity. He got annoyed and said he wasn't a toy, telling her to leave with her little games. The woman asked if he wanted compensation, but the guy said he was leaving and didn't want anything. She said she'd already investigated his life, so she knew he was jobless and broke. The young man thought that with the system, he had nothing to worry about and told her to mind her own business. The woman offered him a full-time job if he accepted one mysterious condition. Just then, the system showed a new progress bar with a heart next to her status. He realized he'd unlocked conquest mode after interacting with the other nurse earlier. The rich woman thought he was staring at her, but the guy thought she had it all wrong. He compared the bars and saw that the powerful woman also had a bit of favorability. The guy imagined that if the bar filled up, she'd become super affectionate with him. He blushed thinking about the conditions for conquest, but decided he needed to test it out. The woman explained that her sister wouldn't give up and that their father's banquet was approaching. Her condition was that the guy had to stay with her until after the party to avoid trouble. She said he'd be staying at her place for a few days and promised a huge compensation. Upon arriving, he was shocked by the luxurious apartment and thought about the cost of living there. The woman said everything was ready for him and that he even had assistants at his disposal. She asked why he wouldn't stay there and what he was thinking, leaving him confused. He thought his plan for rewards had failed, but an assistant entered with urgent news. The system warned that an A-rank zombie was approaching as the assistant talked about a Mr. Bay. The blonde woman seemed tired, and the system asked if he wanted to conquer this A-rank zombie. The rich woman smiled at the news, and the guy wondered if the system wanted him to conquer everyone. She said their deal was now official, and the blonde assistant nodded at the young man. The woman teased him by touching his chin and warned him not to even think about running away. He remained embarrassed, and she thought to herself that recent grads were so easy to handle. The rich woman thought he'd suddenly gotten taller, and the young man was offended by her comment. They arrived at another location, and a gentleman analyzed a jade item with a special magnifying glass. The appraiser guaranteed the piece was authentic and had been sold by the woman's father in the past. The assistant thanked Mr. Bai for the treasure, but he interrupted and told everyone to wait. The seller with the fan said the price had gone up and demanded another 5 million for the rare item. The blonde assistant was furious with the change, but the rich woman said it was no problem. The boss accepted the price but demanded he guarantee to sell the jewel only to her group. The seller gave them a 1-day deadline for the payment and then left the apartment. The older gentleman thought the price was steep, but she reminded him the item was very important to her father. The rich woman told her assistant to sell her cars to get the money, and the blonde woman obeyed. She smiled confidently. What mattered was happiness, and she wanted to make her father happy with the gift. The scene changes to night, and the guy is back in his secure building after the negotiation. He looked at his stats and was surprised. He didn't remember upgrading his charisma and constitution. The system explained that for every 5 points in stamina, he gets 1 point in constitution and 1 in charisma as a bonus. The young man felt stronger and more confident, realizing that investing in stamina was the right choice. Just then, the system shop updated, but he noticed only 3 items were available for purchase. The items were a teleport scroll, a skill book, and a bandage, but the prices were absurdly high. The system showed the points he earned for surviving the zombie attack and for interacting with the women. He sat down and decided to save his points to buy a skill book in the future. The guy started to wonder if there was a faster, more efficient way to get more system points. He remembered he had unlocked a new mode, so he started navigating the system's floating screen. He saw 3 game modes, and the new one was about capturing and taming zombies to increase favorability. He started to imagine what the new mode would be like, but his thoughts were pretty weird and bold. The guy snapped out of his fantasy, embarrassed, and realized the idea was kind of messed up. Suddenly, his phone started ringing, and he jumped, since it was already very late at night. The young man looked at the screen and saw it was a message from that nurse who took care of him at the hospital. She asked if he was okay and invited him to hang out, but the guy suspected it was a scam. He refused, so she insisted, asking him to come comfort a friend who just got dumped by a jerk. The guy remembered he couldn't leave because 2 security guards were watching the building's lobby. Then the woman sent a picture with her pretty friends to try and convince him to go out with them. He was infuriated by the temptation and decided he was going to meet these B-rank zombies, no matter what. Our hero gripped his phone tightly, his determination to get out of the building growing stronger. He threw himself on the couch, frustrated that his stamina wasn't high enough to get past the guards. Then he had an idea and spent 600 points to increase his charisma by 30. The scene shifts to the building's lobby, where the receptionists are working the night shift. One of them was worried about the guards, but the other said it was orders from Boss Wang. The guy walked past the security guards disguised as a delivery driver, and they didn't even recognize him. He dropped the disguise, revealing a very handsome man, and one of the receptionists noticed him. The women were impressed by his good looks and thought he was a new resident in the building. Our hero, now looking sharp, ran into the 2 security guards who had been blocking his way earlier. One of the guards got in his face, but the guy didn't flinch at the intimidation. The guard simply coughed and walked away, clearing the path for our hero. The security guards decided to go get a drink and a snack, abandoning their posts. The young man finally managed to leave and arrived at the restaurant where the girls were waiting. Meanwhile, the nurse and her friends were already at the bar, drinking and having fun. One friend asked why she invited him since she'd said he wasn't that good looking. The nurse said he had a clumsy cuteness to him and that he might be interesting. Our hero arrived at the table and called out to the nurse, surprising the women. He apologized for being late, and a new system mission appeared in front of him. The alert warned that a B-rank zombie was attacking his chest, but it was just a metaphor. The 2 friends grabbed him and complimented his muscles, and the system alerted him again. The nurse watched him and suddenly felt an urge to have him for herself. The nurse thought he was even more handsome and wanted to devour him. He smiled awkwardly, having never been in a situation like this. He realized the system would give continuous rewards in crowded places, so he gained points just by being surrounded by zombies. One of the friends complimented him on holding his liquor well. She invited him to go for more drinks at another bar after they left. Suddenly, a tattooed arm slammed a giant bottle onto their table. A man asked if that's all they were drinking. The system classified him as a C-rank zombie. The man said there were 3 of them, and they wanted to join the girls' table. The nurse's friend immediately rejected the offer. She said she didn't know them, and they already had enough company. The bully ignored the woman and invited the hero for a drink with them. He said one toast could make them old friends. The nurse scoffed at the man, asking if he was some washed-up gangster. The guy got irritated by her taunt. Our hero realized the tattooed man was about to blow. He tried to calm the situation down and offered the guy a toast. The nurse watched him with admiration, seeing his reflection in her eyes. She thought about what a responsible man he was. The brute slapped the drink, sending it flying onto the nurse. The system alerted him to an attack from a C-rank zombie. Furious, the woman slammed her hand on the table and glared at the man. She threatened to call the cops if they continued to harass them. The aggressor yelled that she was the big mouth of the group. He then raised his hand to slap the girl in a fit of rage. But before his hand could reach her face, our hero acted fast. He grabbed the man's wrist and yelled for him to stop. The system informed him that he had captured a zombie and earned 10 points. The guy told the man to never be violent with a girl again. The aggressor was furious and asked if the guy had a death wish. The nurse's friend thought he was very handsome and brave. The bully's friends showed up to back their buddy up. One of them was a B-rank zombie and the other a C-rank. Our hero squeezed the man's wrist tightly. He thought he could use his system coins to boost his stamina. He focused. This was his first real fight. His constitution might be high, but he'd never been in a brawl before. The fight broke out, and everyone in the bar panicked. Someone yelled to call the police as the sounds of punches echoed. The guy used a bottle to take down all 3 aggressors. The system rewarded him for defeating the B-rank and C-rank zombies. After the chaos, the police finally arrived on the scene. The squad car's lights flashed in front of the bar. They were taken to the police station to give statements. The group waited outside for the process to be over. Our hero cried with emotion for having won the fight. He was proud to have protected the girls from the bullies. The women praised his bravery and asked if he trained. The guy shyly said he just works out frequently. The nurse's two friends made excuses to leave. They left our hero alone with the B-rank zombie. The nurse asked if he had fallen for her lie. She said she just made up the story so she could hang out with him. She saw a cut on his face and got worried. The system alerted him that the B-rank zombie was showing interest. The woman reminded him she's a nurse and could take care of it. She said he didn't need to go to a hospital to treat the wound. She invited him over to her apartment nearby. The system activated a mission to explore the zombie's nest. The nurse teased him, asking if he was scared. She invited him to come with her in a very bold way. He accepted and went to her apartment. Our hero was nervous. It was his first time in a girl's room. She told him not to be so formal and that the place was a mess. He replied that his apartment was the same way. The woman suggested they live together to save on rent. The guy was completely baffled by the proposal. Just then, he realized he'd sat on a piece of her underwear. Our hero turned beet red, not knowing what to do. The zombie said she was just kidding about living together. She said she didn't want to live with a man so soon. The nurse moved closer to treat his wound. She sat on the guy's lap to disinfect the cut. The system blasted a maximum danger alert for our hero. The zombie was suppressing him, and he needed to attack now. The guy was paralyzed by her proximity. He thought she was way too close but couldn't seem to react.